and so what we're talking about is the ways in which life calls us to be okay with it, right? Like there are times when life is going to call us to an experience or a path or a sidetrack or something, and we're learning about allowing. We're learning about surrendering and trusting that divine perfection, that beauty in life that is there for us, instead of fighting against it. So today my talk is, what is your superpower? And I've been inspired by the book of the month, Hope and Other Superpowers, and all of that good thing. That's why I wore my boots today, because I'm ready to be the superhero today. And I'm going to own it. Yes, I'm going to be the superhero today. And what as I've been reading this book, I've been contemplating this whole world of superheroes, right? Like I am not a big, huge fan, or dare I say fanatic, of the superhero milieu. I couldn't tell you the difference between a DC and a Marvel character. I don't know why Wonder Woman's costume had to change from that really comfortable butt-kicking ability in the first movie to what she wore in the second one. I actually do know that, but that's a story for another day. And did you know the difference? It got skimpier in the second one. I guess I'm more of a fan than you all are. So yeah, so okay, that was supposed to be the joke, but that's all right. But I don't know all of the origin stories of all of the superheroes, but I do know one thing about them, is that most of them started as human. Most of them started as just normal, everyday humans kind of going through their life, and then something happened, right? They got bit by a radioactive spider. Who was that? Spider-Man. Okay. They were implanted by a steel skeleton. Who was that? Yeah, I knew someone was going to know that one. They were injected with a secret government super serum. Captain America. And they were overexposed to gamma rays. Who's that?
Bruce Banner.
The Hulk. Right? See, don't you go to the coolest church? Like, don't you? Like, totally? I mean, how many people are talking about the Hulk in church, right? Right, so, and what I started to realize is that each of us has that gift, though, within us. Each of us has that special, unique talent, we're going to call it the superpower, that's latent within us. That's why it's not working, because it's falling off my ear. And so, it's there. There is a unique trait that you have that is laying dormant. Or maybe you're using it a little bit, but you don't even realize it. And it's not until you have that beginning impetus for it to come forward and to start to learn how to use it. One of my favorite parts of the movies is always when they get the talent, they get the ability, and then they have to learn how to use it. Now, I know that there's been like five Spider-Mans since the one I'm talking about. But I love I think it's Tobey Maguire, but I love the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man when he's learning how to use his web spinning capabilities, and he's flying through the town, right? And he keeps banging into the building because he misjudges how far he needs to spray that thing, right? And so they kind of stumble over their abilities until they get use of them and understanding of them and a deep appreciation of them and how it fits into their lives, and then they just run with it. With me? So each of us has one of those. Each of us has one of those talents, those abilities that's latent within us, and it takes not only recognizing it, practicing it, calling it forward, and then allowing it to be our state of being in order to become the superhero and to don our capes. I wish I had a cape for each and every one of you today. I do not. And so what happens is that these stories are the same as we experience, except hopefully we don't get radiated by gamma rays and injected with a super serum. I hope that doesn't happen to you. But there's something that happens in our life that we're called to a higher way of being. Something will happen and will call us forward into a new expression and a new way of connecting with and being in our lives. And those experiences are our origin stories. Those experiences are those things of myth that will call us into our greatness. And it's being conscious of it and aware of it. And so it's another surrender. Each one of these characters had a moment of surrender into who they were going to be. Now, we always have a choice, right? And there's some stories where the superhero decides, yeah, no, this isn't for me anymore, and walks away, right? I think it was Batman at some point, walked away from it. I'm done. I'm not going to do it, you know, or they take a break, you know, it's like enough is enough, and think that they can move on from it. But the truth is that it pulls them back in because it's a part of their nature. It's a part of their destiny. It's a part of who they truly are. And so you cannot deny your true nature. You cannot deny your divine gift. You cannot deny who you've come to be in this world at this time, in this life. And so yes, we can convince ourselves that we've come to live sweet, comfortable, kind little lives. And we can say all that stuff that's happening out in the world, yeah, that's for other people, either smarter people or less intelligent people who want to engage in it, or something. But it's not me. I'm going to just have my little focus, put my blinders on, and have my day. But life never, and that may happen for a little while. You may have a couple of days or a nice little stretch of living in this small, cozy life. But what I know about life, which is the expression of God, is that it's not going to let you sit back for long. It's going to knock on your door, literally knock on your door, and something will come to your doorstep. And there will be something in your life that's going to call you back and call you into a greater expression, into a greater way of being, into sharing your gifts. And it's scary. It's scary for us to be called to a higher place of knowing. It's scary for us to be called to a higher place of sharing and giving of ourselves. We're stepping into something that maybe we don't know that we're capable of, but you don't go alone. You go supported and guided by the infinite life, by that divine presence, by that place of infinite possibilities and ever all knowledge and all knowing. Because the truth is that you know, there's this, I went to do my research yesterday. I knew I was going to forget the name of the movie. Captain Marvel. Is that what we saw? Okay. So we went to see Captain Marvel, and I said I have to do research for my talk. We got to go to the movies. And I'm not going to talk about Captain Marvel because it's just out this weekend, and I'm not going to give anything away, but you should, if you like this kind of thing, you should really see it, because I don't like this kind of thing very much. I mean, it's okay, but I loved this movie. It was excellent. It was a really fun ride. It was an intelligent, interesting story. There's a good twist in it. It's really great, you know, and it's a butt-kicking, powerful woman who is not in a skimpy little onesie, you know, leotard. But she's got the power of all the universe, and she can do what she needs to do with it. And I love that there's this combination of the power and the frailty and the humanity all mixed up, and it reminded me that that's like how we are. We have this really powerful presence that's within us, and we also have this human frailty and our own doubts and our own confusion, and we all get mixed up sometimes, and we're doing the best that we can do until we become clear. And so I was saying that this movie was really great, and as I was sitting there, of course, there's I forgot how many there was. I think there were seven previews for movies coming up, and 5 of them were other superhero movies. Right? So you've got a good spring and summer blockbuster movies coming. But the idea that what reminded me is that they would be making all of these if they didn't resonate with everyone, right? That they wouldn't make these movies as much as they do and as big as they do if it wasn't speaking to something in the collective. There's something about these stories that we love. We love the person who's called from their normal life to step into that place of the hero. We love that they get empowered and that they stand up for justice and they fight for what they know is right, and then they meet insurmountable odds, they still win, right? That's kind of what happens. And we love that. We love that because I think that there's something that reminds us that that's not the life we're living. I think that it resonates because most of our lives are decidedly unsuper from day to day, right? We have our moments where we can look back and say, look, that was a day where I stood in my knowing and stepped into my truth and fought for the underdog or whatever it is, right? But for the most of us, we're doing the laundry. We're doing the carpool. You know, we've got the dishes to do again, you know? And I was trying to think about Wonder Woman doing the dishes, and what is it like to do that laundry? It's got to be really hard. She has to get that thing dry cleaned, I think, you know? Like, it's not that easy. But, like, so for the most part, we are in this mundane cycle of our lives that just keeps going, and so easily we can get stuck in that idea and forget that we are extraordinary. We can get into the day-to-day routine of our lives, and we can forget that we have a choice, that we are choosing this, and that we have a choice to step into our greatness, that we have a choice to look up from our lives and look out to see what's happening in the world, and that maybe it's not a bat signal in the sky, but maybe it's your signal, that someone is calling because they need you. Maybe there's someone in your family or someone in your friend circle or someone that's in our spiritual community or something happening in the world that is calling to you. Maybe it might not literally be the bat signal in the sky or whatever your signal would be. But maybe it's you can feel it in your heart, that there's a tug, that there's a desire to do something more, that there's a desire, there's something happening in the world that you don't like, that you feel called to serve and support. Maybe you are being called out of your human cycle, day-to-day unfoldment, to step into your greatness and put on your cape. And step out in the world with your individual superpower. When I was on the way home last night from the movie, I asked my daughter, I said, Emily, what's your superpower? And it came right out of her, you know. It was so funny, it was so fast. She was like, I'm flexible. I tried to get her to let me show you a picture of her bending over backwards, laying on her stomach, bending over backwards on my couch in there, but she wouldn't let me. But she's very bendy. She's very bendy. But I thought about it, as I was thinking about it later on, I said, well, you know what, she's onto something that I don't even think she knows yet. Because she is the most easygoing, flexible kid I've ever met. I am so blessed as a mother. We are so blessed as parents. We have the knock on something. We have the easiest kid. She's so easygoing. She moves and flows with it, and if something happens that she doesn't like, she sits back for a second and thinks about it, and then she's like, all right, well, let's do this instead. She does not get really cranky and dig her heels in like her mom does, and I'm really jealous of that superpower. She's got a great superpower. And so then I asked her, I said, okay, well, Emily, what's my superpower? And I sat in the front seat and was like, what's she gonna say? And she said, she's like, well, Mom, I think you take care of people. And I said, okay, I can take that. And I sat with it for a little while, and caring is one of my superpowers, I think. And then I sat with it a little bit later on, and I realized that that's the double-edged sword, that these superpowers are double-edged swords for us. The superpowers are double-edged swords for the superheroes, right? They're wonderful gifts, and sometimes they can feel like a burden. And so what I realized about myself in caring is that sometimes I care too much. Sometimes I wish I didn't care, to be honest. There are times when I wish I could let just something be, and just let it go and not care. And maybe it's me being a perfectionist, and maybe it's me being controlling, or you could call my superpower whatever you want to call it, because I know some people have an idea about what that would be. But for me, what it is that I care that people feel supported, and that they feel like they have a place where they belong. And so what I realized in my life is that my superpower is about creating belonging. It's about creating a space where people feel comfortable and feel like they are safe, and that they care about them enough so that they can go there. I was thinking about my girlfriend. I have a girlfriend whose superpower is that she doesn't follow any rules. Right? Like, that's a good one. She doesn't follow any rules, so she just doesn't think rules apply to her, so she parks where she wants to park. Right? And she walks in where she wants to walk in. She can go swimming at any hotel she ever thought she was visiting, know, whatever. I'm going here, I'm doing this, I'm going that. And I'm always like, whoa, wow, oh my goodness, you know. But her superpower is reminding me when I bump up against some false limitation that I think is a rule, she breaks it all down for me. She swoops in with her cape and she says, that's not true. Why don't you just do that? Really? Somebody can do that? For as rebellious as people think I am, I'm a very rules-oriented person. I know that about myself. And so I'm glad I have this friend who doesn't have that problem, that her superpower is the ability to just to do what needs to be done. Now, there's consequences to these things, right? I often think of these superhero movies. Who comes in afterwards after they bang up all the streets? You know, when they throw the train and it bounces down the road and the building collapses and all of that. What happens? Who has to come in and clean that up? There's some effects to these things, right? And so we have some consequences, and we have to be conscious about how we wield and use our power. We have to be conscious about how we are in the world and how we share our gift. I love being with children because they realize they have not forgotten that they have superpowers, right? Like, especially elementary school age kids. I've gone to see, I was volunteering in Emily's classroom. She's in 5th grade now, but since she was in kindergarten. Once a week I would go and I would spend time with the kids, and it would be one of my favorite parts of the week. And you go and you spend time with these kids and you say, okay guys, who here is an artist? And they all raise their hand, right? Great, and they're like, I'm a great artist. Oh my God, I draw so great, you should see what I can do. You know, they're so comfortable with their abilities. Okay, who's a dancer? Everybody raises their hand. I can dance, you want to see? And they'll start dancing. You know, great, oh, that's great, you know. And then I say, okay, well, who's super smart? And every single one of them just go on, I'm really super smart, you know. Well, if I had that same conversation with someone who's in 8th grade, or high school, or us adults, oh, I'm not really creative, I have a really hard time with that, I'm not really an artist, I can't really, no, oh my goodness, dance, I wouldn't dance outside of my bathroom, I dance myself, I wouldn't show anybody how I dance, you know. We have this whole idea, we have forgotten that we have talents, that we have abilities, that we have capabilities and potentiality that's alive within us. We've forgotten about that. Now, they haven't gone away. The idea that you can conquer the world, that hasn't, the idea has gone away, but the capabilities have not. We've just forgotten that. We've forgotten that we have great possibility, potentiality, and capabilities that are sitting right where we are. But we just have forgotten. We need to remind ourselves. We need to remind ourselves that anything is possible, and that we have that within us that is capable. And the other thing that I love is that we were each designed in this life to find those capabilities, to sink into them, to allow them to come forward. And life itself is what takes you there. So we've been talking about allowing the flow of our life, right? And not swimming against the grain, swimming against the current. We've been talking about how to surrender into what it is that we're experiencing and allow that to inform us, to guide us, to inspire us. And that's what we're talking about today. How can you surrender into the thing about you that is the most special gift? And let me tell you, one of the things that I think to find it is the thing that annoys you the most about yourself. The thing you think that makes you the most quirky. The thing that you think that makes you the most oddball. That's your gift. That's your talent, and that's your superpower that is here to be acknowledged, to be honored, to be expressed, and to be brought forth. And I love the fact that each hero is pulled into significance differently. Our origin stories, the impetus for our origin stories come from all over the map. Batman rises from the ashes of his parents' murder to defend a crime-riddled Gotham. Wonder Woman feels compelled to come to the aid of outnumbered Allied soldiers facing the Third Reich after being cared for by one of them. Black Panther fully claims his birthright as king after realizing his nation's former missteps. Spider-Man is transformed after recognizing the great responsibility accompanying his great power. And Black Widow is moved to make amends for her deadly assassin's past. So even a past that we think is not worthy, those choices and those decisions and those experiences that we had that maybe we're ashamed of in our past are things that are actually informing our greatness. They're bringing us to a place of our expression. They all become heroes. But it's through the surrender. It's through the surrender to life that they allow that to come forward. And so maybe our origin stories are kicked into action because of the loss of a dearly beloved family member or friend. Maybe it's from a career change or a forced career change. Maybe it's an unexpected illness or the change in a relationship. Maybe it's the suffering that we see in the world. Or maybe it's even one of those mundane things, the struggles that we experience in parenting or our relationships, our marriages. Maybe it's in our career, or the day-to-day work of our career. Maybe there's a struggle in that's going to call and click our superhero power into action. But it's going to come from your life, not something outside. The thing that I loved about the women that we shared today in the video was that they were each doing work that they thought was needed in the world that they saw from their perspective. Each of them is doing something magnificent, but they started because they saw something that they were inspired to do something about. If each and every one of us have our own unique perspectives, our own unique view of the world, then each of us is going to be moved by something different. It's not the same. And so I love that those superheroes, they weren't all indestructible. They're not like complete, do all of it, there's not one who just takes care of everything. And they didn't have all powers. They each had a unique power. And they put that into practice in the space where they were, and they made a huge difference in their lives. And that's what we're called to do. That's what we're being called for right here and right now, is to wake up to the perspective that we have on our own individual life and the greater life in front of us. And to use our gifts and our talents, which are God-divine, God-given, God-inspired, God-supported, into action to make a difference. We can each make a difference in our own way. John Pavlovitz said that a key lesson to embrace is the adversity you've endured and the battles you've weathered, as terrible as they are in real time, are necessary to call you to a deeper place of compassion and kindness than you would otherwise be capable of. So my question for the day is, what's your superpower? Is it encouragement? Is it possibility? Is it creativity? Is it humor? Is it hope? Is it comfort? Is it caring? Your origin story is already in process. You are being awakened to the truth of who you are and why you are being called forward in this world at this time. But that light is flashing in the sky, and we have got to get ready to answer. And so I was inspired by this quote from John Wellesley. He says this, and then go, I love it. Do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as ever you can. And so we're called to make a difference in the small patch of life that we inhabit and allow it to express out to make a difference in the world. So this week, my question for you is, can you figure out what your superpower is? Because if you can do it, I'll get you a cake.